I think there's still such a stigma about it. People just think that this is a program for, you know, uh, legal stoners, right? You know what I mean? And it's not. There are a lot of people really being helped by it. And so, one of my missions is to kind of break that stigma, you know what I mean? And show this is really, truly something that can be used medicinally.
Welcome to Spark Me, a podcast for women who know life is just getting interesting.
Each week, we spark great conversations, share lived experiences, real resources, and tap into the collective wisdom that comes from learning together.
If you're looking for connection, not perfection, fresh ideas, and a community where you truly belong,
then pull up a chair. You're in the right place. Welcome to Spark Me.
Well, hey there, Michele. It's so great to see you.
Hey, Liz. It's good to see you again as well. I like your flowers.
Thank you. Thank you. I am trying to keep summer going as long as possible.
Go for it. Go for it.
I am so excited for today's episode. It's our first sibling interview.
I am beyond excited. Yes, this is the first sibling. So I am one of 6, and I have 4 sisters and a brother, and we're gonna have one of my younger sisters on with us today. So it's super, super exciting. And I could go on forever introducing her, but I had to write something just to so I keep it so we we can fit everything in today.
I just want the dirt on you growing up, Michele. That's all.
I should be happy to share that. If our listeners were about the dirt, just ask, trust me. But yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Dr. MaryFrances Koester graduated Temple Medical School and went on to complete her residency in emergency medicine. After seeing so many patients suffering from opioid and benzodiazepine addictions, as well as many suffering from untreated chronic pain or anxiety, she began her education in marijuana medicine. She believes in the benefits of medical marijuana and advocates its use as a safe and effective alternative to traditional medications. Her mission is to create a true medical practice and strive for continuity of care, which unfortunately is not always the case in marijuana medicine. She is also one of 6 siblings, as I said, of which I am one, of course, and the mother of 2 of my nieces and 1 nephew. Welcome, MaryFran.
Hi guys,
Hey.
So happy to be here.
I've said it many times, but we'll everybody will realize by the end of this conversation, MaryFran has cracked the code of life. Truly, it's pretty awesome. But
Yeah.
let's go back in time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go back to the beginning because that's so far back, but we can go back to maybe childhood and when you kind of got the first inkling that you wanted to be a doctor. So what kind of drew you to medicine?
Yeah, well, as Michele knows, I spent a lot of time with my Uncle Jim. He was a surgeon, and I spent at least 2 or 3 or 4 days a week with him. And in 3rd grade, they had filled out a little form, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a surgeon, a doctor. And that set it, that was setting it in stone, I guess, for me. And from there on out, that's all I was ever going to be, was going to be a surgeon. That changed a little bit, but yes. So that said it.
So you ended up going to medical school, and you sort of pivoted from surgery to emergency medicine. Walk us through what caused you to change.
Yeah, I definitely did. I went through all of medical school, surgery focused. I even applied for surgical residency and was in that when my biological clock started ticking, honestly. And I watched a lot of the residents around me dropping their kids off at 5 a.m, picking them up at 7 o'clock at night. They would put them in daycare so they could go on vacation for 2 days, and leave them behind. I'm like, oh my God, that's not what I want. I want to be there. I want to raise my children. I want to be a part of their life. And so I made the decision, went out to dinner with my husband and said, just FYI, I'm quitting surgery and I'm going to apply for emergency medicine.
So I'm going to speak now as a sibling because I know that was that took a lot of soul searching.
It did.
MaryFran
took a lot of soul searching.
Yeah, because you really, and you liked surgery. You were in the
Loved it.
resident, like you
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But said, this is for my future. And I think it's important because we have a lot of listeners who are like coming into their careers, like, kind of wondering where to go or what to do. And I think that's a really important message is like, you can do that, right? Like you wanted this thing, but what do you want more? Do you want the balance in your life,
Exactly.
or do you want the surgery? And that was a tough decision. And I think it panned out well for you, but it certainly panned out well for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody appreciated that switch.
Yeah. In a big family, like first, I know you're on call, right? Like I don't know how many pictures I've texted, like a toe or like some weird rash. Like I'm not being like on like a kid or whatever. Like just saying like, is this something to worry about? Like, or should I take him to the dermatologist? So you're sort of the on call doctor in the family. So what's that like? But more importantly, like, do you feel like you become the family medical advocate? We talk a lot about not just taking care of kids, and you're in a family with like a lot of siblings and a lot of kids. So you have that hitting you, right? Like all these kids, and you're like the family doctor, so you're getting hit up all the time with questions. And what's that like? And then on the other end, which is something that you went through as well, when parents are aging and sick, you become the advocate on that end as a person in the family, with the knowledge. So speak to like, what is it like to hold those roles along with everything else you do?
Yeah, I think early on, it was a little bit more overwhelming because people came to me with everything, and I had to kind of set some boundaries, right? If you were going to take your kid to the pediatrician for their sore throat, take them, don't come to me, right? Like, you can't come to me with every primary care question. Like, go ask your doctor. I just had to just start telling people, go ask your doctor. But when it comes to like, oh, yeah, no, should I go to the ER or not, or should I not, or is this serious or not? You know, that stuff, if it's 2 seconds, whatever, I'm happy to save somebody a trip to an urgent care, an ER, glue their kid on my kitchen table, then, have them wait 6 hours in the ER, pull a favor to get somebody through quicker. So I think I've learned to manage that well. And again, I think it's about, and anything in life, setting a little bit of boundaries so people don't take advantage of it. But also wanting to be there to help. It was great having Uncle Jim growing up to fill out our physicals, and it's nice to be there for my family to kind of do the same. When it came to the more serious side of things, mom and dad, that was definitely a different ball game. I don't think I was ready for. Um, it, it certainly was a challenge because yes, everybody came to me, and I was the intermediary between their as primary care, but for mom was the oncologist, right? Dad, the neurologist and the primary care. And everybody's coming at me, and I'm like, I'm not the one really in charge. Like, but I had to answer the questions, and why aren't we doing this? And where are we doing this? And should we do this? And should we do this? I'm like, this is not my ball game. It is and it isn't, my wheelhouse. And certainly I too wanted to do the best for them and push the doctors who were their caretakers to do the best for them as well. But it was kind of like ping, 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 coming in at all times. At the same time, parents are dying, and, I'm still dealing with that too. So I have to say that was definitely the most stressful time of my life, both personally and I'll say pseudo professionally, being a doctor and having that pressure on me.
I will say just quickly, Liz, like from the family perspective, and Liz, I'm going to bring this back to you, but I don't know what families do without someone like you. Without like I know it's really stressful for you, Mary Fran, but like from my vantage point, what we would have had to deal with, because you were constantly translating things we couldn't
Hmm.
understand, medical language that was way over our heads, some doctors that cared a little more than others, like all the healthcare stuff, which was a whole nother ball of wax. But like, I thought even in the present, even at that time, as you were being hit with all this stuff, and truly it was like, why don't you have every answer that we all need right now? Like you were sort of getting, like looked at as like you were the people who actually had the real answers, who and had the skills in that area. But But we wouldn't have known what to do without you. I just want to say that, like, thank
Yeah.
you, because I really thought at the time, what do other people do without a medical professional in the family who can translate and advocate and make sure, like, when they were at the hospitals and their hospitals that you worked at, like, just making sure that everything was always, being taken care of. I just, Liz, what do you do, and what did you do with your mom? How did you navigate that without someone like Mary Fran?
Well, in our family, we have friends that are doctors. And so I would call them and say, and, if they were working within the same system, I would say, my dad just got to the ER, take a look at his chart, call me back, and let's have a conversation. I did that with a cardiologist friend of mine, and he was fantastic in translating what the trauma unit was looking at, and what we as a family we're going to have to face. So but I want to get back to Mary Frances, because Michele and I just did an in-person event for Spark Me, and the focus of that was sort of the different personas that women wear within the family. And I find what you were just saying about being the doctor in the family, translating this as your parents' health is starting to fail, but you're also the daughter who is watching her parents, not the doctor, but the daughter watching her parents fail. How did that land for you?
Um, you know, but like I said, it was super stressful is how it landed for me. Um, you know, I I am typically not a frazzled, anxious person. But that time was very tough, managing both sides of that, to be honest with you. That's why I said it was honestly one of the hardest times of my life. Certainly made me stronger. But I wouldn't want to ever wish it upon anybody or do it again. And I pray that I don't have to be honest with you, because yeah, you've got all this, questions, and what are we doing and how do we do it? And you have those questions too, right? Like, what are we can you do the best? Being one of six, I got it from multiple, people, and they didn't know that this person had asked. So this person's asking, this person's asking, and this person's asking, and so it was like amplified. And then at the same time, yes, I'm dealing with the fact that I know, and sometimes they didn't quite get the gravity of the situation. Like, I know there's nothing we can do, right? And try
Yeah.
explaining that to somebody. It's very hard, but I knew it. The minute I read my mother's CAT scan, I was the only one who knew at that time. She emailed it to me, and I broke down in tears. They just started pouring down my face because I just basically read my mother's death sentence. That
Yeah.
sucked.
Yeah.
Did it make you a better doctor, do you think, having had to go through those challenges? Like, did it change, your empathy towards, the families that you work with, or anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely think it did. I do find myself being able to relate to people saying, I've been there. You know what I mean? And I think that gives that empathy a little substance. You know what I mean? Like, no, I can tell you, and this is my honest recommendation as a doctor and somebody who's been there, when I'm trying to guide people.
Yeah. Yeah, because in your world, my friend, you're seeing people, like, sometimes on the worst day of their lives, right? Like, they're just going through something really awful. And I imagine when you see it over and over and over again, maybe you get a little callous to it. Um, I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
just
no.
thinking, yeah, you have to. It's like a protective measure,
Yeah.
right? Um, how does that hit you? Like, how do you hold that every day? Just seeing that, and does that have any effect or impact on you?
No, honestly, I feel like everybody has their strengths in what they do in their careers, right? Like, I could never be a pediatrician, like, absolutely not. that is a special kind of person that can deal with parents and children, right? I have this, call it, wall that I have that I don't know. I don't get frazzled. I don't get emotional. I don't get into the situation. I just do my job. For better, for worse, that's just my personality, but that's why am a very good fit, I think, for emergency medicine.
Yeah. No, I could see that.
And emergency medicine, so I'm just going to frame it that my perspective of it is either the pit, ER, or,
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
been in the ER,
Hmm.
so it is a fast-paced, high-pressure level of doctoring. I mean, walk us through what that's like. I'm just totally fascinated by anybody that goes into emergency medicine, and that whole sort of triage, fast-paced approach.
Yeah, it's controlled chaos in a way, you know. I mean, not everything is the pit where it's like you're constantly, criking somebody and tubing somebody, and we're doing it. There are a lot of people with congestive heart failure and COPD and belly pain, and so you're constantly moving because there's a 6-hour wait, and you're trying to just get through as many people as you possibly can and treat them the best you can as quickly as possible, and keeping track of 20 patients in your head and what I need to do and who's got what and whose tests are coming back. But again, that's a personality and a skill thing. You know what I mean? That I would not want to sit at a desk all day. You know what I mean? So I think it goes with your personality and what career you pick and where you want to go and what you want to do. And I enjoy that part of it. But, it's busy, and there is some chaos. Yes, we do have the traumas. We do have the amputations that come in. We do have, you know, the fun stuff that everybody thinks. So there's not rectal foreign bodies every day. It's not there, but they do come in, and the funny stuff. So we do get that, but it's mixed in with just kind of exacerbation of a lot of chronic conditions too.
Yeah. So inside of all this, and all the chaos of the ER,
Hmm.
how did cannabis care come about?
Yeah, COVID. Um, so
Okay.
when I was in Key West, where I tend to spend a lot of time, I ran into a retired emergency physician who was doing marijuana certifications in Florida, and she was telling me about it. And, it was kind of a great way to ease out of the ER, still kind of be in medicine, make some good money. I was like, that's interesting, but I didn't think much of it. When COVID hit, the ER volumes dropped dramatically. And me being part-time, which we haven't really talked about, I only work 2 days a week. Uh, I was kind of furloughed, which I was totally fine with because we needed to pay our full-time doctors whose families depended on working. And so I need to figure something out. So as we were driving home from Florida, I just started looking up, how do you become a marijuana doctor? What do you do? How do you do it? And just kind of researching it. Um, and by the time we got back to Pennsylvania a week later, I'd kind of had a game plan and got certified. I started with these big companies because it was easy. They had everything. I basically signed away all my rights as a doctor, that they had no liability and everything was on me. I think they pretty much lied to me and said they were keeping electronic medical records and doing everything that Pennsylvania required, and they weren't. It was super, I didn't feel comfortable from a moral standpoint being with that company. You didn't get paid unless you certified somebody. It was just like a card factory, and that's not what my intent was going into it. Um, and so I started my own business, which was very hard to get off the ground. I respect Michele for starting her own and leaving a company and starting her own. I know how hard that is now, to kind of get up and running and off the ground, but it was the best thing I ever did because now I run a true medical practice where can help my patients. I can provide personalized care. I'm just not a card factory, and I really feel like it's been a much better experience than I ever thought it would be. I went into it as something to do, and now I do it as something I love doing.
And so I know nothing about the cannabis industry. So, so you have a medical practice where, you evaluate, people come in and you evaluate whether it's pain management or some other reason for utilizing cannabis. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So in Pennsylvania, every state's a little bit different. In Pennsylvania, you need a card, a medical card, to go to a dispensary to purchase marijuana, right? So in order to get that card, you have to have a certification from a physician saying that you have a qualifying condition. I forget how many, 16, 17 qualifying conditions in Pennsylvania. So when patients come to me, they basically have to tell me what qualifying condition they have, why they're looking for medical marijuana, or if they've already had it, how it's helping them, kind of a thing. And then I do a form for the Pennsylvania Department of Health saying this person has a qualifying condition. And then the state is the one who actually issues the card. And it looks like your driver's license, actually. You have to be a Pennsylvania resident to get it. And then they can go to a dispensary to purchase product.
So when you started treating patients, right? So what did you believe you would be treating, right? So what are the conditions that patients come to you with?
Yeah, I would say, number one and two are anxiety and pain, right? And both of those, I think medical marijuana is a wonderful uh, alternative medication for. But I also have patients with multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, cancer, autism, um, that are also really benefiting. And I think a lot of the other quote unquote qualifying conditions kind of fall under anxiety or chronic pain, neuropathies, spinal cord diseases, PTSD, is another one that it works really well for as well. And I would like to say too, I think so many people are missing out because they see anxiety and they think I'm not an anxious person. But like if you're sitting up at night until 3 in the morning with your mind racing over and over and you can't stop thinking about stuff, that's anxiety. That's your not being able to shut your mind off because you're anxious. The day's been fine, you've been so busy, and then the evening hits and you just can't shut that mind off and you're panic thinking about what I need to do and I got to do this and this and this, or how's this going to fit in here? And you can't sleep. That's anxiety, and medical marijuana is a wonderful cure for that. I shouldn't say cure, treatment.
Treatment. I want to revisit that, but first I want to get a little bit clear. For anybody who doesn't know much about marijuana, you hear things like THC and CBD. What's the difference?
Yeah. So, marijuana is medicinal for a reason. Okay. There are what we call the endocannabinoids, and those are what you just kind of mentioned, but there's so many more. There's THC, there's CBD, CBG, CBN, CBDA, like a lot of them. And they all kind of work on different receptors in our body and kind of and we're learning more about each one every day as more and more research comes and the regulations on research are kind of, pulled back a little bit. And so CBD is my favorite endocannabinoid. I think that is the one that's been most studied, most scientifically proven. It's anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety. You know, eh, it's not psychogenic. It doesn't get you high, but it works really well in combination with other endocannabinoids like THC, which also has some anti-inflammatory effects, some pain relieving effects, anti-nausea effects. And when you kind of put them together, it's called an entourage effect. So they kind of boost each other up. So you need less of each to get kind of more effect, if you will. CBG is being looked at for focus. CBN is great for sleep at night. And then there are other parts of the plant called terpenes. And the way I explain those to people are like chamomile and lavender are calming, citrus is uplifting. Well, these are also parts of the plant and they have different medicinal properties too. Some are anti-cancer actually, some are anti-inflammatory, some are calming, some are energizing. And so there are thousands of different types of marijuana plants, and that's why you have all these different types. And so, anything can work, but when you get the right product with the right mix, depending on what your condition is, you can really treat it much better. So what my anxiety patient needs is not what my cancer patient needs. They're two different types. They should be at least two different types of products if used properly.
And so are you the one that's sort of prescribing the, you know, I don't want to say like compounding,
Hmm.
but almost like, okay, well, you're going to do, this many grams of
No.
this and this.
No, we'll
Okay.
separate there. No. So, that is a misconception, right? That marijuana is prescribed, and it's really not. Like I said, I'm just basically telling the state, right? Which is why in my practice, I do try to guide people and make sure that they're kind of in the right, at least genre of marijuana, if you will, because
Okay.
anybody can go and buy whatever they want. So they can go and buy a 70% THC, which is terrible for anxiety. I can't stop that, right? Um, One of the things that I strongly recommend that I think is so underutilized and that I really stress to my patients is to use the pharmacist. So the dispensaries in Pennsylvania have medical marijuana pharmacists at them, and it's their job to really know like these terpenes, these endocannabinoids, and what's good for each condition, right? And direct you, set you in the right direction to get the right product. And quite frankly, stay away from the wrong products because, as I just kind of alluded to, certain types of marijuana can make anxiety much worse, paranoias, palpitations. And so you want to stay away from those. So it's not only getting the right product, it's staying away from the wrong products. And so many people just don't do that. And so I feel like a broken record with every one of my patients every day, trying to stress that.
So we have a lot of listeners and people in our audience, Mary Fran, who are going through perimenopause and menopause, chronic stress of some sort, but really the symptoms that come with, just moving through different phases of life. And I know that you've talked about, that this can be really helpful for that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
in what ways is medical marijuana helpful
Yeah.
for people suffering those
Absolutely.
symptoms?
When I listened to that wonderful podcast you had all about that, I was like, I've got a cure for that. I can help with that. I can help with that. Because the anxiety, the irritability, the I'm stressed out feeling, and CBD is wonderful that. So you don't even need medical marijuana, honestly. I mean, you can if you need to kind of boost it up a little bit, but CBD is a wonderful product to kind of help with that. And like I said before, it's not psychogenic, so you don't get high from it, but just to get that little bit and you don't feel medicated with it, which is one of the things I hear from my patients over and over again who've been on traditional pharmaceuticals. They felt medicated, blunted. With medical marijuana, you don't have to, right? The lower doses really work very well, or high CBD, which isn't psychogenic. You don't feel medicated. You just don't have that stressed out, I want to kill somebody feeling, or I feel so overwhelmed I can't function feeling. The sleep at night is huge because when you don't get a good night's sleep, your next day is so much worse. And then you're anxious and you're nervous because you didn't sleep, and that just makes everything worse. And then it compounds on each other. And then that night, we're up again thinking about how we didn't sleep the night before and all these things and how you didn't get this done today because you were so anxious and whatever. And so the sleep at night is a huge factor as well. So I think with a lot of those, it can be really truly beneficial. And then, I mean, there's some good like side effects with sex too. Not gonna lie. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is that what most people are looking for though? Like when
No.
you are give people like they're coming to, they're like, I can't sleep, I'm so
Hmm.
stressed,
Hmm.
like I'm waking up in the middle of the night, my brain is
Hmm.
racing,
Yeah.
I'm stressful during the day, I'm forgetful, I'm
Hmm.
waking up in sweats, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Do you actually say, here's what I'm prescribing? Then they take the card, they go to the medical marijuana place,
Hmm.
and there's what they're supposed to do is follow your recommendation,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Right.
Maybe they don't always do, but are they, you know, are most people seeking not just the relief from the stress, but maybe a little bit of the fun that comes with it too?
Occasionally,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm a fan of California sober. I think that, if you want a little just good feeling at night, I think that marijuana is a much safer, better way than a martini. Quite frankly, because alcohol disrupts your sleep. It's obviously, addictive. It's not good in a number of levels, but honestly, for the calming factor, it's really not good for your sleep and calming. But that's why people have a drink at night, right? Is to kind of, right? So yes, do some people then take a little more of the THC? Yeah, I'm sure they do, but that's their unwinding. That's their alternative for the glass of wine, right? Kind of a thing. So, yeah.
So this is like a very dumb question, but so I've never done any drug, including marijuana. So how how do you take it? Like, do you smoke it? Is it a pill? Is it a cream? I have no sense of how this works.
All of the above is the right answer. So again, very state by state. Technically in Pennsylvania, you are not allowed to smoke it, so you shouldn't roll a joint or smoke a bong. You're supposed to vaporize the flower. Do plenty of people do what they're not supposed to? Yes. Do I just I try to encourage people not to, but yes, it happens. There are vape pens, just like you see people with the nicotine type. There are vape pens for marijuana as well. There are tinctures, which are just little droppers. You can put a little underneath your tongue. Um, Technically in Pennsylvania, edibles are illegal, but they call them troches, which means, or troches, nobody knows how to say it, dissolvable lozenge. So technically it's a gummy you're supposed to dissolve in your mouth. To me, that's like, remember the old Tootsie Roll commercials or the Tootsie Pop commercials? Like, how many licks are
Yeah.
like one, two, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you let that gummy. So most people do chew and swallow them, or they're little like Pez-like candies. There are capsules that people can take. Um, and then there are stronger ones, concentrates, that are like a little syringe, a little piece of rice, or even like the tip of a pencil is all you really need. So some people put that on a cracker and kind of eat it. Um, and then there are the creams. The creams are amazing. I mean, I've had, elderly folk who could not get a knee surgery done because of their age or comorbidities, couldn't walk. They rub that cream on and it's enough to get them, ambulatory, not running or anywhere, but to the bathroom. You know what I mean? Um, People after exercising, people with back pain, neck pain, and again, those are not intoxicating. They work really well, like a Voltaren, but better, if you will. You know what I mean? On a lot of joint pain. So for a lot of people with chronic pain, again, this is I'm a very big advocate of it. Opiates are just horrible for chronic pain. It's documented they are terrible for chronic pain, and yet physicians continue to prescribe it, and it drives me up a wall. It really does, because opiates are great for short-term pain. They are terrible for chronic pain. They have horrible side effects that can actually make your pain worse, requiring you to need more um, opiates. And so, again, that's another key qualifier for me for this.
So interestingly enough, my father, who's had some medical issues this year, had a situation where they prescribed Voltaren
Mm-hmm.
for him.
Mm-hmm.
He had a horrendous side effect,
Mm-hmm.
hallucinating. I mean, it was really like to the point where like he was so shook up by the side effect that he
Mm-hmm.
had from this that he went through another surgery and said, "I'll only take Tylenol."
Oh,
Like he did not want um, anything to dull the pain because he'd rather have the pain
then go through
than
that.
than go
Yeah.
through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting. We never even thought about like medical marijuana as being an option
Right.
for pain management. It just wasn't something we thought about.
And a lot of people don't, and even in the medical community, I think there's still such a stigma about it. People just think that this is a program for, you know, uh, legal stoners, right? You know what I mean? And it's not. There are a lot of people really being helped by it. And so, one of my missions is to kind of break that stigma, you know what I mean? And show this is really truly something that can be used medicinally. Of course, it can be abused like anything, but there are a lot of people who can really be helped by it. And, again, you don't have to be high for it to work a lot of times. These creams, you're not going to be high. You can slather them on all day and they're great. They even clear up eczema and like psoriasis plaques. I mean, they're really like cool. They've got some great properties to them.
So I think you just hit on something, Mary Fran. Like we also had a conversation with
Mhm.
Brenda Zane,
Mhm.
who was like
Yep.
Addiction World, right?
Yep. That was great. Great podcast.
And you have a nephew.
I do.
My son
Yep.
struggled particularly with marijuana and misuse of it. And I feel like marijuana is one of those things, like so many things, that can be used for good or could be misused, right? And that both things are true. Right? So in your world, how do you identify the difference? Like, how do you know when somebody's coming to you? Can you even know when somebody's coming to you? Because I'm hearing all these things. I didn't even know some of these things, like the cream on the ankle or for the joint pain or whatever it might be. Like, there seem to be so many, all the different types of THC, D, A, V, whatever, that help all these different areas of the body or the mind or whatever it might be. And it all makes sense, right? So how do you, is there any way to know if somebody's coming to you for a real medical reason or to really help with anxiety or marijuana or perimenopause or something of that nature versus I'm just looking for a legal high?
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, people can BS you, of course, know what to say. One of the questions that, I ask it when my returning patients, particularly, or if somebody's coming to me as a new patient, but they've been using it already, is how are you using it? Morning, night, daytime, nighttime, a little bit of both. You know what I mean? Just to kind of get a gauge. And it's okay if people are like doing a little bit, kind of just again, keeping not like, or if they're getting stoned all day, right? And so if I'm concerned about that, I can't prove it, right? It's hard for me to prove, especially I'm not there, I'm not babysitting, I can't see how much they're buying, that kind of a thing. I will advise them to, one, take a tolerance break, which is to stop using it for a week, or if I feel like they're a heavy user, I'm like, you need to stop for like a month, like reset. And when you go back, you need to take it down a notch or two or three, right? And that break allows people to say, am I using it just because that's what I do it every day at this time? Or is it because I really need it, right? One, two, you can decrease how much you're using and hopefully kind of do a little reset. The other thing is I'm like, are you using this to numb or to medicate? Because there's a big difference. Okay. If you're just getting stoned all day, that's numbing. That's not the purpose of this. Okay. If you're using it to medicate, to get off that ledge before the panic attack happens, right? To keep your pain at bay because you're in horrid chronic pain all day, that's a different use. And to be mindful of that. And, honestly, not to toot my own horn or pat myself in the back, but even just this week, I've had like 3 patients who've really taken down their usage over the past 3 years. A lot. And I also encourage therapy, whether it's physical therapy or mental health therapy too, for everybody, because any medication, whether it's marijuana or traditional pharmaceuticals, treat the symptoms, but they don't get to the root of the cause. So I'm a big advocate of trying to get to the root of the cause, fix, the underlying issue.
Yeah, that's what Brenda said, that drugs aren't the problem, they're the solution to the problem.
Yeah. And
the problem is
I
what you need to get to.
And I think she helped me kind of see that in my patients, to be honest with you, and to kind of be a little more mindful of that, to that difference, you know what I mean? And so I thank her for that.
So again, I'm sort of coming at this brand new. It strikes me that the process might be missing a step. Like, I feel like the doctor should be driving the prescription, not the pharmacist at the medical marijuana dispensary. I mean, do you see that?
Yes.
Or is that...
Yes and no. It would be very hard for me. It would be a full-time job for me to keep up with the thousands of different types of marijuana at the dispensaries, to be honest with you. And to, monitor, like, that is a full-time job, to be honest with you. So while yes, I guess what I wish that the dispensaries had better oversight, like that they required the pharmacist to meet with somebody before they just purchased something, or had a little flag system. Like if somebody has anxiety as they're like, I mark it down, they can see my certification of what their qualifying condition is. And if it's anxiety and they're coming in getting a 70% THC, flower once a week, that should raise a flag. So I do wish that there was more oversight of the programs. Um, I mean, it's so barely medicinal with the state, to be honest with you. Like, they're getting better, but when I first started this, pretty much every product was THC at the dispensary. As I said before, the science is all on CBD. So why is our dispensary all THC? So I really wish that the Pennsylvania medical marijuana program would be a little more proactive and making it more medicinal. And they are getting better. Like I said, there's more CBD, more CBG, CBN, and some of these other endocannabinoids that have been missing coming onto the market. But I think that's by demand. I don't think it's because the Department of Health has regulated it. I'm not sure if the people on the board even know they're endocannabinoids, to be honest with you. And so I do wish that that side of it would be more medicinal, because I feel like that also feeds into the stigma because you're not regulating that. And so somebody can tell me they can BS all they want to me. I certify them, and then they can go and buy whatever they want.
Yeah, I would say, again, I came at it from like no experience. So listening to how you're describing the benefits, I can see where, whether it's pain management, anxiety, there are benefits. But I personally as believed that Pennsylvania did it because they want to legalize marijuana.
Hmm.
And so they're less invested in the true medicinal outcomes of using marijuana. It was really, this is my personal opinion, their first step in getting the drug legalized to generate tax revenue, frankly. So
I
that's just
don't
my
disagree
feeling.
with you. And again, that's why I feel like they don't do the best job at it. As somebody who truly believes in it medicinally, I feel like they could do a much better job at promoting the medicinal qualities and controlling the medicinal qualities of it, you know? So
Yeah.
no, I don't disagree with you. It's one of the things I wish were better about the program, which is why, I kind of in a lot of my blogs and on my website say it's important that you get the right doctor, right? Somebody who's going to really guide you and kind of keep you on the right path, to make sure that you're getting the right stuff. How many people have come to me from, again, these card factories or other places that nobody even asked them these
Yeah.
questions?
What are your thoughts, Michelle? Because obviously you're dealing with, a different side of it.
Yeah, no, and that's why I hear what my friend's saying, like she's advising, but once they walk through that door, right? If they want to go just get high all day, they can do it if they have the card. And I think there's probably a lot of misuse because I can tell you from personal experience, I know that a card was not through Mary Fran, but I know a card was being misused, right?
Hmm.
Um, but here's the flip side of that. So I think regulation, I don't know what the answer is, but I think we're identifying that there should be more regulation on the side of here's my card and I should be able to get something medicinal if that's what this card says, right? And that maybe the THC is what they is the part that's being misused, but the CBD has so many of the medicinal qualities. You don't necessarily need the high to go with it. So what I heard from Brenda Zane is that that there's a massive misuse of, especially recreational marijuana and probably medical marijuana as well, that it can cause psychosis, that kids are, addicted, or they're, their brains are really being fried by it because it's the oils are at this level that it's not to just repeat that what she said. It's not the marijuana that you remember, my friend, you talked about rolling and smoking. Like those were like the marijuana out there today that the kids are taking, they have access to, which is not always safe. At least coming through the
Yeah.
medical place, it's safer. You're
Yes.
gonna it can be laced with anything, right? It's at these incredible concentrations that are very harmful. On the flip side, though, and I want to be fair to both sides. Like the flip side is, I know because I've also seen it do like pretty great things, right? Like, so, and I was going to ask you, Mary Fran, what are some examples personally or professionally that you've seen where it's really helped somebody who's used it?
I have so many patients who've stopped Xanax, stopped Klonopin. They're off SSRIs. On the pain front, cut back significantly from using, 4 Vicodin a day to half a tab twice a week, and many who've just come off of opiates completely. I've had patients on Suboxone and Methadone who've actually, trust me, when I was in medical school and everything, nobody, and even the ER, nobody weans off of those things. I've had multiple patients wean off and come off of those and be completely clean. And that that's one of the reasons I truly love doing this. I think we could look at so many things. Alcohol destroys lives,
Yeah.
opiates, methamphetamines, I
And
mean,
even
all of
years,
these
things.
things can
Yeah.
be abused. I think of all the abusive things, this is the safest. You're not going to overdose and die. Typically, families aren't destroyed by it. I'm not saying they can't, but in general, like alcohol, um, but yeah, it has to be used responsibly, just like anything. I pray that I know that we're going to move towards legalization. And I really pray and I hope that our government officials or whoever's in charge of this really makes the medicinal program so enticing, if you will, that people who need it medicinally, whether it's much cheaper, you know what I mean, getting better products, etc., um, can still do that. Like they should make it such a huge incentive to do it medicinally because I truly fear people self-medicating and going to a legal dispensary, not using a pharmacist, not having a doctor oversight and misusing it. You know what I mean? So I hope going forward that they really do that so that people who need it have incentive to come see me or another physician to go to the dispensaries that are medicinal. To your point about the high THC, 100%. The science supports that. I'll tell you that. And 100%, nobody needs 70% THC other than the dying cancer patient. Okay. That shouldn't even be sold unless terminal illness is on your card. You know what I mean? And I hope if they make it recreational, back in, I'll say our day, you're looking at 10, 20% THC was like max. Now at the dispensary, like I said, you get 70%. It's like crazy, insane, and unnecessary for most people. Again, this is where the state and the medicinal side and the board should be having a little more oversight so that we protect these children from that. And honestly, some people just do it because they don't know any better. Listen, I'm a huge more is better fan a lot of the time. I'd go and be like, yeah, let's do it. Just not knowing, not being educated, and just thinking that's sure, why not, right? Not knowing that that's not always the case.
Yeah, because I think if I'm hearing in my world like people who are considering, oh, like let's just do some gummies, like a couple gummies is like, and I think what I heard you say is if you do and I'm talking back to Liz, like if you don't really know the world and you're kind of entering it, like where do I even come into it? Like if you take the wrong thing, you could make your symptoms worse, right? And that's I think like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna take some gummies, and like maybe that's the wrong gummy with the
Right.
wrong stuff in it, and that's like what you wanted was the glass of wine effect, and what
Right.
you got was like the binge more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you want the glass of wine effect and you got like the bottle of vodka effect. You're like, yeah.
Yes.
You took a little too much. You're just staring at the TV watching Dark Side of the Moon, I can't speak. But yeah, at least you don't wake up with a hangover, I guess. But yeah, no, definitely. So it's important to get the right stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Mary Fran, are you still doing work in the ER, or have you fully migrated to no? So you're still working in the ER.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I imagine that the ER today is very different than it was pre-COVID. It just
Yeah.
strikes me that you have fewer providers, fewer nurses, more people utilizing the ER as their primary care
Yeah, I would say it was pretty bad before, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It was bad before
Okay.
and it ramped right back up after. I think during COVID, now some people weren't coming in that should have come in, but it certainly took away a lot of the, you know, yeah, today was the day that I've had 6 months of XYZ, but today I thought I should go to the ER, right?
Mm-hmm.
Emergency. You know what I mean? Like, have you seen your primary care physician about this or anybody? No, I just came here. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and that happened before and it happened after, to be honest. But certainly I wish that the people should understand that, I don't pee for 9 hours sometimes, right? Like you're waiting 6 hours. It's not because I'm sitting back there eating bonbons. Unfortunately, it's a hospital administration and how it's run kind of a thing, how many nurses, how it's staffed, how many beds are upstairs. A lot of time, half of the ER is filled with people from upstairs. We just don't have the beds because they don't have the beds up there, kind of a thing that kind of makes it a little more crazy than it should be.
Yeah. And how you said you work 2 days a week, so I want you to talk a little bit about cracking that code of life.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do you and the decision taking us all the way back, coming all around the decision you made all those years ago. How do you balance motherhood, being an ER doctor, and being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So there's always been, peaks and valleys to that. You kind of figure it out as you go along. But yeah, I decided when I came out, I wanted to work 2 days a week. And that was great. It was a perfect balance. And ER allows you to do that because it's shift work. So my choices when I was leaving surgery were like radiology, anesthesiology, or ER, right? Shift work. I'm going to go, I'm going to work, and
You
don't
were
call.
saying shift work. Yeah.
Shift. Sorry. Yes, yes. I mean, sometimes it can be the other kind of work too. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. And so that when I left, I wasn't getting called, right? I went go do my job, and it's a great balance because I got motherhood, but I got a professional life too, and I love my job, and I also prevented burnout from the ER. You hear that a lot 'cause it's hard. I mean, honestly, I give kudos to my colleagues who can work 4 or 5 days in a row because that is really, really hard. I mean, we are there. We are not checking email. We are not scrolling. We are not, it's like boom, boom, boom. You're lucky if you eat or pee. So that was great. When I started the business and then went back to the ER, I was spending so much time trying to build it, and I was like, "Ooh, I could be successful." And so I found myself losing that balance and working more than I wanted to, and it was taking me away from why I went to ER in the first place. Now starting this company and, doing these events and trying to build business, and I was getting a little successful at it, but then I was realizing, oh God, now I've got to answer phones. I'm gonna need a secretary. Like it was getting beyond a little bit of my time, and so I honestly scaled back the cannabis care consultants end of it. Um, not promoting myself, not pushing it, and cutting back the hours that I was doing it to maintain that balance because it was getting where I wasn't liking it because I was missing on the things that I wanted to be for my kids. I couldn't take them to practice or take them here or there and be with them for schoolwork and help them with their school. And so I did have to kind of take that back a little bit and make that decision. Do I want to start a big successful company or do I just want a little side practice doing something that I enjoy? And so again, it's that figuring it out as you go along kind of a thing and making those decisions of what you really want. And to me, the family was more important than the success. And maybe when they're all gone out of the house, that'll change. But for now, this is working for me. I can adjust it and tweak it and set my hours around hockey tournaments and trips. Right now I'm got 2 kids at camp, getting them back and forth and spending time with them.
So awesome.
I think that it's so interesting to me. I've always sort of felt that the medical profession is more linear, right? Like you go through, you do so much schooling and clinical work, and you choose, the path that you're going to go down. So, you started thinking it was surgery, and then you pivoted to emergency medicine, and then you pivoted again during COVID and added on this cannabis consulting, medical piece. You have totally um, exemplified what so many women do that are not in the medical profession, where, they're going down a path and they have to pivot. Maybe they need more flexible hours because they're raising kids. And so they don't take this promotion, but instead they move this way. And I just wonder, do you ever feel like it's always a trade-off? Do you feel like you gave up anything? Do you feel like your life is so much fuller because you had the flexibility and the personality to adapt to the change of situations? I'm just curious about that because I think so many women really struggle with that decision.
Yeah, I feel truly blessed in the position that I've been in. I have a wonderful husband, who is the primary breadwinner. So my salary is supplemental. And I think that makes a big difference for a lot of people. That said, I would give up a lot of what I have if it wasn't the case to still do what I do. Because to me, being able to take my kids to Knoebels when they were little and, all the things that we got to do and travel. I mean, we travel a ton and I can really adjust my schedule to that. I'm going to work Monday, Tuesday. So I have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off and we're going to go here. You know what I mean? I'm going to take my daughter to her hockey tournament in Minnesota. You know what I mean? And be able to
Yeah.
do those kinds of things is more important to me. But that's me. Like that's what I enjoy. And this allows me to do that. So I think in life there's a sacrifice for any reward, if you will. I am perfectly willing to sacrifice super successful career. I think it's been okay. I enjoy what I do when I do it, and I enjoy it in the amounts that I do it because it doesn't stress me out and it allows me to still have the other life that is also very important to me. And I don't think everybody can do that, and I feel very blessed that I'm able to do that and have that balance. Because honestly, it's pretty cool. It works.
Yeah,
It works. I mean,
you've definitely cracked the code, as Michelle said.
yeah. Like I said, I feel blessed to be able to have these opportunities and the careers that I've chosen, and still be able to do cool things, and start that, but also, travel and
But I
go
also heard you
places, do
say if your
things.
circumstances were different, you would give things up to
I
still be
would.
able to be there
I
for kids.
100% would. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and every time the other pivot, Liz, is like she scaled back her business because when it started getting up, that's hard for some women to do. It's hard when you're,
Yeah.
reaching these no heights to say, no, this is still more important to me. And so I'm gonna go this way instead of that way when you could kill it. But as we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, in addition to Cannabis Care website, what other like books, podcasts, resources have been helpful to you? Or would you want to share anything that you've, read or done, throughout your life that you think you could share with the listeners and with our audience that has been helpful to you?
Yeah. I think one of the most influential books that I ever read was Atlas Shrugged. I mean, Ayn Rand, it's a story of a female written in 1940s and 50s who takes over a company, who doesn't do what society tells her to do, but what she believes in and stands by her morals. And she's strong and she's powerful and she doesn't take crap. And she just does it. And I think that is a great role model for men or women, as far as, standing up for what you believe in and not succumbing to cultural norms that you don't believe in. And so I think as far as a book, that would be um, a big one, as well as Economics in One Lesson, just as far as financial stuff, because We didn't talk in that, but I love stock market investing and that kind of stuff. And I think it's important for, everybody, but particularly females to kind of, have a grasp of that. You know that, Liz. I mean, your finances are important. And a lot of times we're the ones running the show. So understanding that is important. So good economic books like that, I think, are important. As far as podcasts, shout out to MRAP, which is Emergency Reviews and Perspectives. Love it for my education as far as emergency medicine is concerned. But so that's my career one. But as far as personally, I think I was struggling up through my 40 or into my 30s and late 40s. And when I turned 40, I kind of had probably was making bad life decisions. And I listened to Jordan Peterson's Psychology of the Bible, and it really helped me kind of realize when they say Jesus saves kind of thing, and it's not really a religious podcast. I'll tell you about that in a second, but it taught me how you can really save your life, because when you look at the psychology of the Bible, so let's not even talk religion, the psychology of it, it's been around for 2,000 years for a reason. And when you look, the Old Testament is Judaism, Muslim, or Islam, excuse me, and Christianity, right? That's the Old Testament. We all kind of share the same thing, and that's where, these things come from. And if you do the right thing, you try to stay on the right path, you're not jealous of other people, you show kindness towards people, if you really follow the 10 Commandments, it's, even though it's really hard sometimes to do it in the moment, your life is actually really better in the long run. And I wish I'd learned that sooner.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. Well, I have to say, this has been a fantastic interview. I learned so much, honestly, and I really appreciate you coming on and educating us on not only your career path, but the medical marijuana industry. I really had no true understanding of it, and this was super helpful.
I think people are going to love this podcast. I think this is like a lot of people are super interested in this topic. And, now we'll have covered both sides of it, right? And I think it's important to do that too. But I can't almost let your nickname slip. But I can't thank you.
Thanks, Mish.
And you have to come back, and then in that episode you can share all of the funny stories of Michele growing up.
Absolutely. I mean, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, my friend. This was really enlightening, and everything you shared was just I really think people are getting a lot of value out of this. So, and we do hope you'll come back at some point. And thank you so much for being on Spark Me.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It's my honor.